And Moyo joins me now for more on this update. We seem to have seen some high-profile delegation meet on this particular issue, but help us understand what the students are doing this time, and if the chairman of the Nigerian Diaspora Commission was able to really calm them down to halt that 7-day ultimatum they have given.
Thank you, Nifemi. She actually tried her bit in calming them and making them understand why violence is not the way to go. She cited examples of what the government is doing. She made them realize the government is working hard on bilateral talks, having relationship. She also mentioned that the president of Nigeria would be meeting with the South African president before the end of the year on the same matter, and immediately the Foreign Affairs Minister is appointed. This is one of the priority objective for him as a minister. She said all this, but the students felt like the keeping quiet of Nigerians is the reasons why these killings has never stopped. And they believe that the closer it is to us, the closer home these killings are, the more we feel it. That the persuasion for them to stand down on this clamp down that they are planning to do is because we don't have a direct family member that's been killed. That if we have a direct family member, or if the government has a direct family member, then they won't be pleading with them to stand down. But at the end of the day, they all reasoned that violence is not the way to go, and there are other means that should, first of all, at least be tried, and let's see a solution coming from such means.
All right, let me hold you for a minute, Moyo. We're joined now by Olushola Ogunobi, who is a Nigerian lecturer in South Africa. Thank you for joining us on TVC News at 10. So we have heard some South Africans say that they are not xenophobic in the light of it. The challenge is the high rate of crime in that part of the world. What are your thoughts about this?
Thank you for having me. I think it's typical for many South Africans to say that they are not xenophobic, I'm sorry. What I would probably say is that it might be the case that xenophobia itself is not common among all South Africans, but the fact remains that studies have shown that xenophobia is preponderant, it's pervasive, it's rife among the locals, and it's something that the government itself needs to take the right policies to deal with and institute the right systems and institute the right systems to deal with such biases. But the point is that xenophobia is common and is rife among the populace. The degree to which people are affected, foreigners are affected by xenophobia may vary depending on your level in society and your status in society. So for someone who lives in the street, for instance, who lives among the locals might be more affected by xenophobia compared to somebody who is a middle-class foreigner who works in high places, and so the effect of xenophobia itself among the foreigners varies from people to people, but the fact remains that xenophobia is common and is rife, and the perception of the sources of anti-migrant prejudice is very common among South Africans.
Well, Olushola, the figures are really troubling. Close to 200 Nigerians killed in the past 3 years. Help us understand the kind of relationship that exists between Nigerians living in South Africa and the citizens there.
Really, the point is that I would not say that people do not have very good relations with South Africans. I've got lots of South African friends, and in fact, in preparing for this interview, I had to ask a few questions from my South African friends, some of whom had worked with the Home Affairs Department. So I think generally people have very good relationship with each other, but like it's common in most cases, it is the negative news that come to the fore and that becomes news. There are many cases of positive interactions among South Africans and foreigners that go unnoticed or go unaccounted for in the media. I know, for instance, a friend of mine whose son has been treated for free by the Johannesburg Hospital with a dialysis treatment, and this news like this oftentimes go unnoticed or unpublicized. So I think what we need to do is to begin to emphasize on the positive aspect of South Africa-Nigerian relations or South Africa-foreigner relations, and this will also reduce the tension. It will reduce the anarchy between South Africans and foreigners, and the perception, like I said, it's a perception thing, and some of it is reflected in criminality, and some of it is reflected in just hatred for what is foreign and what is not affiliated to South Africa itself. So I think what we need to do is to emphasize the positive aspect of these relations among people.
Absolutely. We hope that the two countries can take advantage of their rich history of brotherhood and indeed the diplomatic relations that exist between the two of them. Olushola Ogunube is a Nigerian lecturer who joined us from Cape Town, South Africa, and our correspondent Moyo Thomas also joined us from Abuja.